Now let's put all of this together to do a little bit more interesting data analysis. Let's use our file management, our regular expressions, and process the University of Maryland FYI emails to see what kinds of things people are emailing the campus about. When are they offered? How many of them are there? How many items offer subjects? How many of them have websites, and so on. So let's take this example, this bit of code that I extracted from the previous example, and let's just start by counting the number of subjects. We can just define a variable num_subjects, initialize it to 0, and every time we find one, instead of printing it out, let's increment number of subjects by 1, and then when this whole thing is done, we can print out the number of subjects is, convert that integer to a string, num_subjects, run this, and number of subjects is 3, just like we thought. And just to be clear, let's set this to FYI 3, where we know there's a lot more. Yep, and that has 26 of them. All right, let's go back to FYI 1. It's a bit smaller, easier to manage. All right, the next thing I want to do is look not only for subjects, but when things are offered. When things are offered, a little bit interesting, like how many things are offered on the weekend, on Friday. Is this more of a like academic things where things are offered during the week, or is this is more like social things on the weekend? Well, we'll find out if we can find out when they're offered. Well, we could, of course, just duplicate all of this code, right? First match for subject and then match for when, but I don't want to do that. I want to use the power of regular expressions to do the pattern matching all at once and find whether we have a subject or whether we have when. And we can do that by introducing another regular expression special character, which is the vertical bar, sometimes called the pipe. And what that does is tells a regular expression that you can match either the thing before it or the thing after it. So I'll search either for subject : or for when. And just to look at FYI, you'll see that subject : was the beginning, but these things here have a bunch of spaces. So I'm just going to search for when. Without a colon. All right. So now when we do this, and then we're going to still look for our group dot star after that, but our group is going to match the content whether it was a subject or whether it was a when. So what we need to do is take this beginning part and put that in another parenthesis. So now we'll have two groups. The first group is what we're matching, and then the second group is the content. So what we'll go down here now and look at our groups, and instead of iterating over all of the elements of our group, let's look at the first group item. Let's just print it out for the moment to see what it looks like. Okay, leave that other stuff alone for the moment. Groups of 0, run this, and we can see sometimes it's subject : and sometimes it's when. Perfect, just like we would have hoped. Right? The first group, or the 0th group, is matching either subject : or when. So what we can say is if groups of 0 subject : then we match the first thing, right? Increment number of subjects. Otherwise, if it was when, then we will increment the number of whens. Let's go make a variable to count that as well. And we can go ahead and just make a similar line here. If we go ahead and run this, then look, we get 3 subjects and 2 whens. And if we go look at FYI1, I suspect we'll find that one of the items, doesn't have a when. This one does. Oh, sorry, start at the beginning. This one doesn't have a when. Look at that. The next one does, and the next one does. All right, perfect. So we can count things. The next thing I want to do is a little bit trickier. I want to find out really when these things are happening. And to do that, we're going to have to look at dates. In order to analyze the dates, we need to store the actual date string. So let's go make a list of all of the whens. So whens will just be an empty list. And every time we find one of these things, we'll just append onto that list the actual content, which is, remember from the regular expression, the second group, which is the content. So we'll just add onto it groups of 1. Now we can go start a second bit of code here. We'll call it date processing. let's start by just looking for all of those whens and to see what they look like. Let's go ahead and run this. We've got 2 of them. Maybe we should run this on FYI 3 so we can get some more examples. Alright, and we can see we've got a whole bunch of them. Generally there's a bunch of spaces, a colon, another space. Then, look at this, there's always a day of the week, then a comma, then a space, then a month name, then a space, then a day of the month, then a comma, then a space, then a year, and then some other stuff. Sometimes we just get a starting and ending time. Other times we get a dash and then an ending date. I guess it depends whether it's a one-day event or a multi-day event. So maybe let's ignore this distinction and only process this first part, which gets us the starting date, which is enough for me. So how do we go and do that? Well, we need to make another regular expression. So let's leave that print statement in for the moment while we're debugging and writing this. We'll do something similar. We're going to try and make a match. We're going to call a match function. We'll give it a pattern on. We'll put that pattern on the string when. So now, what does that pattern look like? Well, looking at these examples, the first thing we need to do is get rid of all of this stuff at the beginning. So I guess we want a bunch of spaces. I guess that could be space star, right? That way we don't have to count the exact number of spaces because maybe that'll change from time to time. Followed by a colon, followed by space. And we're not going to put this inside of parentheses for grouping because we just want to get rid of this. We don't want that. Then what we want is the rest of it. For now, we'll just say parentheses dot star, right? And that hopefully should give us everything else. Let's go ahead and do the same kind of thing we said before. If there was a match, then let's print, let's get the groups, right? Match.groups. And I guess we only have one group now, so let's go and print that out. Groups of 0. So, so for every when, we're going to print out the original string, and then we're going to print out the group. And maybe just for debugging, I'm going to make it clear this is the group that we found. All right, let's run this thing. See what we got. Scroll up. So here is an example of the when, the string, and this is the group that we extracted. Tuesday, November 12th. Right, perfect. Everything after all of the stuff. So we successfully got rid of all of the stuff before the colon. All right, very nice. So now let's go and do a little bit more detail. We actually don't just want all of that. We want the individual elements, right? We want the first, the day, and actually that can still just as a dot star. Let's go ahead and split this all up. But followed by a comma and a space, right? Right here there's a comma. Whoops, I'm sorry. Comma and a space. Then we want to extract the month name. So we've got comma, space, month name. We'll put that in parentheses, dot star. Then there's a space before the day of the month, space. And now let's look for some digits like we did before, 0-9 plus inside of parentheses. That'll give us some nice digit sequence. Followed by, actually no, let's forget about the year. Let's just say everything else. All right, so now how many groups do we have? The first group is the day of the week, second group is the day of the month, and the third group is, the month name, and the third group is the day of the month. So we've got 3 groups. Let's go ahead and see if we extracted them right. So day of week is group 0. And let's just write this out. The next thing should be day, I guess is the month name. And I guess this is day number 1 and 2. Okay, well, who knows? Let's try this out and see what happens. All right, so for each initial when string, we extracted something. Oh, and this is not right. Right, this whole big thing, Thursday, blah, 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 blah. Okay, does it work at all? And the answer is no. We extracted too much stuff. And The reason is because we did stuff like looking for something separated by a comma, but there are multiple commas. And the regular expression generally is greedy, that it tries to find the largest thing it can in order to satisfy each of these groups. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little trick here. If I only wanted to give a single word, I can put a question mark. And that says that's another special character that means 0 or 1. So remember, our special characters were plus means 1 or more, star means 0 or more, dot means any character, and question mark means 0 or 1. So that's just 0 or 1 of these things. That's kind of a special shortcut that says I want to make this small. I don't want this to be as greedy. So I'm going to put that in here as well. Let's try running this again and see if that helps. I think it does. Look at this. Day of the week is now Thursday. Month name is October. Day number is 24. And generally speaking, this is looking pretty good. Even in these longer cases, right, where we had an event that went from multiple days, we still extracted the first one, Thursday, October 24th. And that worked well that worked because we used this special trick, which is this question mark, which says let's not be so greedy in our matching. All right, we've extracted our dates.